Assessment 1, Digital Presentation, PRAC1, BSP5072, ST 2015-89A6. This presentation will demonstrate a company looking for a new market internationally. The senior manager of the company that I'm representing required a video presentation discussing and evaluating the following: opportunities and threats in relation to operating in emerging economies, political, economic, social, technological, also cultural issues and or factors relating to the market, and lastly, social responsibility, ethics and sustainability. Opportunities and threats in relation to operating in emerging economies. Emerging markets are states with economies that are not prosperous but not absolutely destitute. Emerging markets are outside the realm of the global superpowers. They are an important subgroup of non-triad countries marked by their rapid economic growth and changing involvement in the global economy. Coulson et al. 2020. These states usually have large populations that have an increasing amount of disposable income and therefore a new stakeholder for any organisation looking to expand to a different market. A particular group of emerging markets includes the states from the BRICS. These include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRIC or BRICS is an acronym for trade bloc, coined by Jim O'Neill from Goldman Sachs in 2001, but at the time did not include South Africa until 2010. Furthermore, each BRICS nations have a varying economic strength. Firstly, Brazil's role in global governance has seen economic power and as a leader for developing nations to follow suit, being one of the most significant powers in South America. Brazil's growing economic power has seen it possess more hard power in relation to global governance, as it becomes more relevant to be able to negotiate with other states and trade blocs and NGOs. For example, Brazil is the largest exporter of agricultural products to the EU, and the EU is the biggest foreign investor in Brazil with 48.5% of its Latin American investment in Brazil, the European Commission 2016. Next, Russia. Russia has been conducting a key role in global governance for a considerable amount of time since it was formerly known as the USSR. Russia is a key stakeholder in hard power and its association to its military and economy. Russia did fall from grace since the downfall and collapse of the USSR, as seen as a key supplier of gas to many nations. A considerable amount of those nations being the European Union. Furthermore, in terms of Russia's military strength, it allows Russia to still have global relevance in today's geopolitical stage, but as seen, this is dwindling since the rise of China and its emerging economy and power, and possibly one day superpower. In recent years, there has been a decline of direct foreign investment in the vicinity of 20 billion plus USD, according to the World Bank, since 2014, as it would be credible to the actions concerning the annexation of Crimea. It is evident that Russia needs to attract more foreign investment as it needs to continue to operate and have relevance in global governance and not be shadowed by other nations that may be partnered with. This could be a key market for any organisation looking to expand its operations into an emerging market such as Russia, as it is looking for desperation towards foreign investment. Next. On to India. India's role in global governance has been apparent since 1947, when it gained independence from the British Empire in post-World War II global order. It was also a founding nation of the UN. India has a unique role on global stage because it is close allies with Russia and the United States, with the US and Russia being long-time natural adversaries. It is the only nation with military access to Russian and US military bases. Furthermore, India has a growing military economic presence globally, With a growing population of 1.38 billion, which rivals China, India also could overtake China with its population, growing 3 times the amount of China, according to the World Bank. In consideration to India's GDP, it was growing at 8% per annum in 2016, but has seen a sharp decline of minus 7.96% in 2020. This could be due to the trials and tribulations of the COVID-19 pandemic. This could be an opportunity for any organisation looking to operate in India, as it has a vast possible opportunity to grow as a market due to its considerably sizable population, which is a key factor in the Indian market to grow. Going on to China. China has a clear role in global governance. In the current global stage, China is a competitor with the second largest economy globally, rivaling global superpowers such as US and Japan. Also with the second largest military in terms of manpower and the second largest military spending budget globally. This gives China a considerable amount of hard power and competitive edge when conducting itself within global governance. As China can defend itself militarily and economically on the global stage. This is evident during the Trump administration when Trump started the Sino-US trade war, because as the US said, it's antithetical to the interests of the values of the United States. But China was not majorly affected by this trade war, as manufacture of goods globally, as in 2016 when the trade war began, China's annual GDP growth has increased on an average of 6.6% since. To the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, where the global trade was retracted considerably, still saw China with 2.3% annual growth in 2020, compared to the United States with 3.486% annual in 2020, minus 3.486%. Overall, China is a key competitor for the global stage and has an attractive growing market for organisations looking to expand into an emerging market with a large population and GDP, and could be seen as the next superpower. And lastly, South Africa. South Africa's role in global governance is not as relevant worldwide in comparison to the BRICS partners, but it's one of the most significant powers in its region, Africa, or Southern Africa. As it's said in McNamee's article, Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa are some of the biggest regional powers in Africa. South Africa's economy is being, and I quote, important anchor in economic stability in Southern Africa. South Africa plays an important role in Southern African Development Community, which is like the EU, the SADC for short, objectives to promote sustainable development and security in the Southern African region. Overall, an organisation looking to expand into South Africa is a potential opportunity, as it could provide access to multiple other markets in the region. And if more investment was seen in South Africa, neighbouring nations could follow suit. In summary, the BRICS collectively have a combined population of 3.198 billion, which is over 40% of the world's population, and combined GDP of over 20 trillion, which then starts to rival the US. But with a total average GDP per capita of $6,882, does not show that the market has ample amount of disposable income and logistically comfortable to expand into, as one of the markets at the time would be more suitable for any organisation, as the BRICS nations cover over 4 continents with different audiences and cultures and interests. Political issues to be considered when operating overseas, in particular in emerging economies. Issues can space over macro and micro political. Starting with macro political. Events can affect all companies operating in a state or region. For example, a conflict in a nation could cause this. Onto micropolitical. Micropolitical events are those which could affect one or more industries or companies. For example, barriers to access to reparate funds, applying laws or regulations. An example of this was Wuhan, China 2020, January. And I quote, "The world was shocked by the harsh restrictions and rigid enforcement from late January until June. The city was effectively sealed off from the rest of the world, the country." Ilma Wang and Wong, 2021, BBC. This is a clear example that a company should consider before expanding into a new market, whether it is emerging or established, due to the recent global events due to the pandemic, as they can be extremely volatile and unpredictable, as seen in other nations like Australia, which have flash lockdowns here and there. Economic issues can be considered when operating overseas, in particular in an emerging economy. The economic risk encountered by a corporation or company expanding into a foreign market could be government changes domestic monetary or fiscal policies, and or the government modifies its foreign investment policies. A method to be used by a company looking to move into a different market, a foreign market, would be the quantitative method of assessing a statistic ability for a nation to be able to pay back debts to said company. You do this by monitoring the market's economic credit that it holds. I'd say a key example with a risk in relation to China is that it's a one-party system which has a large control over the state and the people, which could change or implement something with speed, and a company might find it hard to react to something like that when operating in China. Moving on. To legal. Legal issues to be considered when operating overseas. There are 3 legal systems in the world: common law, which is used in the United States and 26 other countries, mostly of English origin. Secondly, civil law, which is based off a set of laws and or values. About 70 countries use this, predominantly in Europe. And Islamic law is used by Islamic countries and is based off religious beliefs and or tribes' beliefs, and it's used in 27 countries. Pardon me. Other legal issues can include protectionist policies, tax systems, and level of government involvement in the economy. A good example of this was during the Chinese-US trade war, where both nations put various tariffs on each other. One that China put on the US was 25% tariff on 34 billion worth of US goods. That's in some SCMP reports. A US company trying to expand in China, this is difficult and would create a process accessing the Chinese market more difficult. Technological issues. Technological issues to be considered when operating overseas. That if a nation has a digital revolution, or whether the nation is reliable on technological infrastructure, has reliable technological infrastructure. As we can see, there's 2 ends of the spectrum, as both nations are trading in the same trading, but with very 2 different areas of development. With China being at the cutting edge of technological industry and South Africa really lacking behind in this digital revolution. Actually, in the quotation, Chinese industries are not only getting closer to the technological frontier of conventional areas such as electronics, machinery, automobiles, high-speed railways, and aviation, but also driving technological innovations in emerging areas such as new and renewable energy and advanced nuclear energy. And in the other case, South Africa, a number of countries have successfully harnessed the digital revolution, but as said in this quote, South Africa is just falling behind its partners and its competitors. And onto culture issues. As always seen, there's been a East-West divide. And in an article I found, it expressed that Western each cultures differ, especially in relation to business. For example, and I quote, most Asians and other Eastern cultures still subscribe to the elevated leadership roles, in contrast to Western societies that tend to look to leaders as one team. This angles at the Eastern business culture that is more hierarchy compared to the Western culture, which is probably more democratic, I'd say. But furthermore, also goes into more detail into networking and that extensive family ties in East Asian cultures, that this helps with business dealings and connections and would help compared to the Western culture, which is more exclusive. Moving on. Social responsibility, ethics, and sustainability. Corporate social responsibility. CSR's concern of well-being of the business stakeholders, i.e. staff, should be a commitment for respect and for the individual. Ethics. When acting internationally as a company, it's the company's morals that should be upheld, and the ethics to the other entities and individuals. Depending where a company is operating, it could depend on the ethics that the company will hold. It could be related to the working conditions in the area the company is working in or is from, compared to the other nations it works with or works in. But moving on to sustainability. In today's world, it cannot be ignored that a company operates and actions can affect its stakeholders. In today's world, the climate is fragile, and a company ethically, you may not want to operate in a nation which pollutes extensively, or you may not want to pollute yourself as a company, but when expanding to a market such as the BRICS, they have a considerable amount of pollution between themselves, with China polluting over 12 million greenhouse gas emissions a year, along with Russia with 2 million, India with 3 million, Brazil with over 1 million. But surprising that only BRICS nations have a low green gas emissions is South Africa, in line with the European nations. Some companies may not want to develop some of these emerging economies markets. May want to develop some of these emerging markets, green economies, as a way for nations to evolve and grow a new market. It could be a gap in the market for a company that does renewable energy, looking to get into China's market, Brazil's market, Russia's market, India's market. Moving on. Now, in conclusion, to conclude this presentation, here is outlined the key considerations for a company looking at opportunities and threats when looking for a new international market, especially when looking at an emerging market like China or India, as looking at both of these attractive markets for any company operating globally due to its sheer size of the market or the sheer size of their GDP and potential growth, as both countries prior to the COVID-19 pandemic had quite high growth rates. This is my reference list. Continue. Thank you for listening. And I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.